biology.
However, there is one thing. Today's psychologists, and urologists argue that an erection can be involuntary, like a woman can rape a man. The argument doesn't accept that except under special circumstances. But all right, look.
It's a tough stuff. I did it already.
Yeah, well, I was saying it's hard tomorrow.
Hard tomorrow.
I meant that.
In another way. In another manner. Okay.
Did the guy daven fast today?
Maybe I did. I was the guy. I damn daven too fast.
No, it was good.
Yeah, I say when I daven for the Yomi, I say every word.
Yeah, but
I think that's why.
I mean, you left me completely in the third, and I started 7 o'clock. But it's okay.
That's
You're in the dirt. You're in the dirt.
Oh, you made it to the daf though.
You have,
Good morning.
Oh, I didn't take coffee. That's why I'm
that's why.
Good morning.
Okay, I want to ask a quick question. We're going to be finishing Perek today. Does Art Scroll have, didn't have my Art Scroll available. Does this have any kind of a chart at the end of the Perek?
No,
As to,
I didn't
okay,
see one.
all right. So I'm going to pass around. It happened that Koren had a chart about the various situations. So I made a copy to pass around during the shiur. So when we finish the Perek, we'll pass it around. You can take a look at it. If anybody wants, to have a copy, it's one thing. But it was a breakdown of all of the shitas of the entire situation. Okay.
Rabbi, can I make one announcement?
Yes, Bob, absolutely.
I don't know if your cell phone.
For those of you who have not made a bracha over a fruit tree, there is some beautiful mango trees on Military Trail. Those are the closest ones that I've been able.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Very nice.
If you want to make the bracha once a year, you have the opportunity.
So we can't collect the mangoes, huh?
Are there more than one?
There's more than one tree at this location.
Yeah.
My wife is allergic to mangoes.
No.
Eating it or
All right, so let's say I decide to go there. I get to Military Trail. What
Harvey.
do I do?
Maybe I'll stay there. North of
Fine, you make a left and it's a few hundred feet up. On the left or the right?
You have to go to Atlantic. Keep going. Okay.
Okay.
Before Atlantic.
All the way up.
Okay.
That's a Magachuna. A Magachuna. Keep on going. There's a few blocks. After Atlantic. About a 20-minute walk.
Okay. Gentlemen, we'll start. Okay, if Mel is back in, we'll see if we can get him on Zoom. Well, he could be going to Rabbi Sugarman's shiur earlier, but if Mel is back in his apartment.
He is back. I saw him yesterday. He's back. He's
Okay.
I already did the doctor.
So what?
I did the doc already today too.
Okay.
Raising my hand.
All right. Okay. All right, gentlemen, let me start the learning sponsors and then we'll get on with the. A year of learning by Sue and Arnie Garelick in memory of Malka Perlman and Philip Mann and Yisrael David ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Beryl ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Yosef Meir ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Anya Rivka Prorozna bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch in the memory of family murdered in the Holocaust. Arav Tzvi Hirsch ben Shlomo Yaakov, Sarah bat Ephraim, Yisrael David ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Ephraim ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Adia bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Miriam bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Pesel bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shalom ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Shlomo Yaakov ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Shmuel ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch. Children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren of Toby Paris, Saratova bat Yisrael Dov in her memory. We welcome Sid back, Charlie Gelfenstein and Sam Levine in memory of Ramona Levine, Rachel Mata bat Asher, friends of Nina Moynester, Nechama Asna bat Yitzchak Aharon, many friends of Stephen Vigdor, Lezecher Nishmat Simcha Melech Ben Meir Leib Halevi, friends of Marcy Kurtz, in memory of her great niece, Leah Bracha. We have a month of learning sponsored by your many friends in honor of Lydia and Krauss and Abe Krauss's 50th anniversary. We also have a month of learning sponsored by David and Mindel Cheslow in memory of his father, Moshe ben Ruvain Mordechai, by Susan and Ruvain Podolsky in memory of her father, Simcha Bunam ben Yeshua. And then the others will start as of 29th is Shabbos, right? Today is the 29th, right?
Tonight is Shabbos.
Yes, that I'm aware of. Okay, so starting today, we have also a month of learning by Haran and Mel Haller in memory of her father, Yosef Eliezer ben Tzvi Hirsch, by Susan and Reuven Podolsky in memory of her mother, Chaya bar Avram Dov, by B. Pizer in memory of her father, Yitzchak Dov ben Shmuel. We have also, finishing up today, a week of learning by Judy Iger in memory of her husband, Aaron ben Shlomo Michael, by Henya Hadass and Shmuel Novik in memory of her father, Zev ben Shimshon, by Meir and Sarah Breben and Michael and Golda, supposed to be Breben, and Meir and Michael's mother, Bela bat Elimelech, by Isaac and Etta Novik in memory of his father, Eliezer or Elitzar, it's supposed to be Eliezer, but Yaakov ben Renachai Tzvi. Starting today, a week of learning by Jack Gilman, in memory of his brother Zev Yosef ben Yitzchak, by Sharon and Michael Glass, in memory of her mother Chaya bar Avram Baruch, by Gail and Leslie Kaplan, in memory of her mother Mushka Sprinzer bat Yosef Chaim Bachava, Judith Iger, in memory of her son Anshel Yitzchak ben Aaron, by Michael and Judith Poretsky, in memory of his mother Rachel bat Avram. Today, a day of learning, actually Shabbos, a day of learning by Judy and Bob Thaler, in memory of Ari Letzer, Aryeh ben Mordechai, the father of Susie Nelson. Also on Shabbos, excuse me, Alice, a day of learning by Alice Scheinwald and Susan Kaufman, in memory of their father Shmuel Yaakov and their mother Fegabat Alexander Vachaya. Okay? Hashem have Aliyah. And before Shlema for Elishev Yael Bat Sari. Okay. All right.
Okay. It should be Sarah.
Should be, but that's
Why do you do Shabbos today? Wouldn't you like to do Shabbos?
what? Because he doesn't do them on Shabbos.
So why don't you tell him to do it?
I have, among other things.
I gotta do the 54.
Okay. Okay. Bottom of Nun Bet, Amud Beis, Rebbe Savar. Right? What is he Savar? Yesh Zika on Nun Gimel. Right? That's where we are today, right? Okay. Yesh, right? Yesh Zika. Vatai Chalitza. Afkayate Lezika. Okay, and what happens then? According to Rebbe, there is Zika, and along comes Chalitza, and it removes, nullifies, uproots, however we want to translate it, right? Afka'ate lezika, all right? And therefore no Chalitza, okay, is necessary.
Anything after that
It's Gemara, right? Klum. V'Rabbanan Savrei, and the rabbis of the opinion, Ein Zika, that there is no Zika. Okay, me'ikara, ilu amar la hitkachili bezikat yabamim, mi lo mahane. So the Gemara asks, originally, had he said to her, okay, hitkachili, and become engaged to me based on a zika relationship of yibum, mi lo mahane, would it not be valid? Okay, hashtanami mahane, here too, shouldn't it be valid?
after.
right? At
Because
the end,
because Zika
after the
doesn't
fact,
break.
the Zika doesn't break. Okay? Rav Shravya Amar says, Rav Shravya, b'chalitza ksheva. We're talking about a situation when we're dealing with a valid active chalitza.
No.
Okay? No?
See,
Yeah, so that
No,
makes
no.
it a valid chalitza.
a chalitza psula is also valid. A chalitza kshera is where the yavam has the complete untrammeled choice of doing yibum or doing chalitza.
Okay, let's
And he
let's
chooses
phrase it,
chalitza.
phrase
That's
it a
what
little
means.
different. Let's phrase it a
But
little
a
different.
psula is if there are reasons why he cannot do
Okay.
yibum,
Well,
but he
wait,
still has to do chalitza. That's called a psula.
That's
But
what
they're
the Gemara
both
said before.
valid.
I'm not
The Gemara
completely,
said it before. The more-
no, I wouldn't phrase it. I'm not disagreeing with the concept. I'm just saying I wouldn't phrase it that way. Okay? I would phrase it a little differently.
But you can't use valid and not valid because they're both valid. I'm just challenging your word.
Okay,
valid.
that's why I'm saying. Okay, the point, all right, so you don't like the translation valid. Okay, I'll use a different term.
Good.
Okay, all right, in this case, while we're talking about a chalitza, where normally we would have, the Yabam has the option, okay, of he has Yibum or chalitza.
That's what I
Okay,
said.
well, no, he phrased it differently. Okay, so that's the point. Okay, Ida Amar Lahit Kachili Bazikat Yabami. Had he said to her, engage me based on Zikat Yabami, Kuli Almalo Plige de lo Mahane, then everybody is in agreement, right? They're not, they're agreeing that it's not, right? Doesn't work.
Because chalitza undid.
Because then it does. Okay. Vahacha b'chalitza psula kamiflage. But what are they arguing about? They're arguing about when it's a chalitza psula. That's what they're arguing about. Okay. Right. So that could be the case, we said, of where the example was, if it was when our discussion, whether it was one yabam and one yabama, or our question is it one yabam and two yabamot? If it were two yabamot and he did chalitza to each, okay, in that case, we would clearly understand chalitza with the first yabama was worked, chalitza with the second yabama would be the psula.
But
Right.
it's not a chalitza, it's giving you.
Okay.
Never, go by.
Okay. Mar savar chalitza psula poteret. But the master seemed to indicate that a chalitza psula did have some level of operation. Okay. Umar savar chalitza psula eina poteret. And the other master held, okay, which was the rabbis, that was their view, chalitza psula eina poteret, that it did not free others. Okay. Rav Ashi Amar, according to Rav Ashi, the kuli ama chalitza psula eina poteret. In the view of Rav Ashi, okay, which was like Rabbanan, okay, a chalitza psula, okay, is not freeing others. Vahacha b'yesh t'nai b'chalitza kamiflage. And what are they really arguing about? Says Rav Ashi, that there is a conditional aspect to chalitza. And that's what they're arguing
Yeah, Rashi says extortion.
about. Extortion?
Yeah. Rashi says, I'll give you chalitza if you give me money. If
Okay.
you don't give me money, finish.
It's interesting because the other explanation that I have here, right, did not bring that up whatsoever. Okay, the Shinante. Okay. Mar savar yesh t'nai b'chalitza, umar savar ein t'nai b'chalitza. Okay, that being the case. Right, so again, that would be the difference between Rebbe and Rabbanan. Right? According to Rav Ashi's view. Right? Ravina Amar, says Ravina, the Kuliyama yesh t'nai b'chalitza. Everybody agrees, says Ravina, sorry, that there is a conditional aspect of chalitza.
That you can make chalitza
Okay.
based on it.
Vahacha b'tnai kaful kamiflage. Sorry. Okay, and that there is a double element of conditions here. In other words, implying it would seem that the chalitza is valid if the condition is fulfilled, and it's invalid if the condition is not fulfilled.
No.
But he has to make that condition both ways. He has to
Yes,
say
that's
that
what I'm
specifically.
saying. He has to say
Like God and Usher. If
both. You do it
yes.
here,
If
you don't do it. No,
And you
that's
have
what
to
I'm
say
saying.
both ways.
Yes, you have to give both parts. If the chalitza is only valid if the condition is fulfilled. So you have to give both elements.
And verbally.
That's what I just said. Okay? So what happens? All right? So ba'in and t'nai kafu, umar savar lo ba'in and t'nai kafu. Okay, we get to a new piece now from our text. Chalatz va'asam ma'amar. Okay, what happens if he did chalitza and then does ma'amar? Vinatan get uba'al. What about these other examples? And again, remember, we kept saying, is it dependent on the example of one yabam and one yabama? Is it an example of one yabam and two yabama? So the Gemara says, "V'nitne." So let's teach. Nami ein achar biyaklum. So simply teach that after he performs an act of bia, there's nothing else that needs to be done. Abai v'Rabba da amre travayu. And Abai and Rava, both of them said, right? Tane ein achar bia klum. That our Mishnah should teach after bia, there is nothing else. We saw that our Mishnah did specify after chalitza, there was nothing else. The implication is the Gemara, the Mishnah should have taught likewise that after bia, there's nothing else. Vatana didan. So why didn't the Tana of our Mishnah spell that out explicitly in the text of the Mishnah, right? Vatana didan, our Tana, hatarat yavama l'shuk adifale. Okay, namely that he felt a preference, okay, that she would be able to be available, let's say, to the open market, literally. Okay, now,
He's giving conditions of
right, that was the point. Okay, echad yavama, echad shtei yavama. We said the same rules applied to one yabam and one yabama as it did to one yabam and two yabama. Okay, or it could be reversed. Well, we'll see. Matnitin delo ben azai. This seems to imply the language of our Mishnah, that the Mishnah was not edited, let's say, or worded by Ben Azai. The Tanya is taught. Ben Azai Omer, he says as follows. What? This. Yesh ma'amar, achar ma'amar, b'shnei yavamim v'yabama achat. That there is the possibility of a ma'amar followed by another ma'amar when we're dealing in the scenario of two yavamim and a single yavama. Okay, we talked about this the other day, by the way. Remember, I gave you the example, okay, that one yavam could be up in Tiberias, one could be in Yerushalayim, whatever, okay?
the girls
And wherever she is, right? Right? And that happens. Ve'ein ma'amar acham ma'amar. Okay? B'shtei yabamot v'yabam echad. But there cannot be one ma'amar followed by another ma'amar in a situation where we have two yabamot, but only a single yabam. Okay? He's not going to make a levirate engagement or a rabbinic engagement with both women.
and flip a coin in 3 months.
Okay, so what happens? Ketzad ma'amar, why? Ketzad, how is it possible? Ma'amar lezo v'chule. After all, our text said ma'amar lezo, right? Lema misayele l'shmuel. Let us say that this seems to support the view of Shmuel. The Amar Shmuel, who says, chalatz leba'alat ma'amar lo niftarat sarata. That if he performed chalitza to a woman that had received a ma'amar, this does not free or exempt a co-wife. V'tiyuf to the Rav Yosef.
Because she also needs a get.
Right? Because what happens, all right, if he did chalitza, it's one thing. But since he made the ma'amar, that the chalitza only broke the zika relationship, it didn't break the ma'amar, quote, marital
So he needs
relationship.
to give her a get first.
Right.
And then
That's
give
the
her
point.
a
Okay, so what happens? Okay, and so therefore we're saying that therefore doesn't totally exempt the tzara, because the two, if you want to call it, relationships are not both totally severed simply by doing chalitza when a ma'amar is given. Okay, so what happens? Lo niftarata v'tiyuv to the Rav Yosef, and this seems to be a proof text against Rav Yosef. Okay, mikatani choletz, but does our Mishnah say choletz in the present tense? Chalatz, it referred to in the past tense as if there was it described a situation that occurred. Okay, that's the point. Katani, that's what taught. Diavad, okay, it was after the fact. That's the point. Okay, get lazo, get lazo, chule. What about that example in our Mishnah? Lema Messiah the Rava bar Rav Huna. Let us say that this then supports the view of Rava bar Rav Huna. The Amar Rava bar Rav Huna chalitza psula, who said that in regards to a chalitza psula, tzricha lachzor al kol ha'achim. Okay, that in that situation, there must have a further examples of chalitza with the other,
sibling
right,
has
with
to
the
do
other
anything
brothers,
and then
right?
chalitza.
The case. My tzrichot. What do we mean when we say that tzrichot, that we're requiring, okay, chalitza there? Tzrichot the alma. We're talking about it in general. We don't necessarily mean that it has to be to each of the brothers. Okay, that's the point. What about the following? Get lazo v'chalatz lazo. A get to one and a chalitza to the other. Lemus Messiah Shmuel. Again, let's say this supports the view of Shmuel. V'tahave tiyuf to the Rav Yosef. And again, this would be a proof text against Rav Yosef. Mikatani choletz, but then we'll use the same argument. Did we say choletz in the present tense? Right? Okay, chalatz. In other words, it was after the fact again. Right? Katani diavad. Our Mishnah then was taught, okay, based on a situation that had occurred, as opposed to how one should do lechatchila. Okay. Again, another case. Chalatz v'chalatz or chalatz v'chule. Right? Again, the Gemara suggests v'litnei nami ein echar bia klum. So here too, again, we suggest if we've said throughout our Mishnah that after chalitza there is nothing else, why doesn't our Mishnah again teach after yibum? After be'ilah, there shouldn't be anything else. Right? Abai v'Rabba da'amrei travayu. And in this case, again, both Abai and Rava suggested the very same thing, Tani, that our Mishnah should be teaching it that way. Ein echar bia klum, that after bia, okay, there is nothing else needed to be done. What's the answer? Vatana didan hatarat yibama l'shuka difale. Again, the author or the right of our Mishnah, okay, said permitting the yibama, okay, to a general population. Okay, why? Because we do see that there were those who had the view that just as a grusha is not permitted to a kohen, so a chalutza is not permitted to a kohen either. There was a,
but the co-wife is. If there was
right,
no
the co-wife
chalitza
would be,
on-
right. Okay. Bein yabam achad l'shtei yabamot, regardless if it was one yabam and two yabamot, what? Bishlema Rabbi Yochanan. That may be an agreement or view with the view of Rabbi Yochanan. The Amar, who would say, Kula Beta Belav Kai. Okay, what about that the entire house then is based on, okay, a situation of potential love? It's tarich, and we needed it. Lahashmeinan de'ein kiddushin tofsin b'chai ve'lavin. In order to teach us what? That the kiddushin is not valid. It doesn't hold, all right, with regards to various situations where there is a love, which we saw, remember, had been the view of Rabbi Akiva that we saw. Okay? Right? But, says the Gemara, rather L'Reish Lakish. But what about his bar plukta, Reish Lakish, da Amar Kula Beta Bekaret Kai?
He notches this up to
Okay,
Paris,
right? In other words, his say, no, it's not simply based on love, okay? But it's got to be a love what's punishable by Koreit.
And he holds that he's such a love.
Right, sure. It's tarich, and that's why it's necessary. Why? La'ashma'inin de'ein kiddushin tofsin b'chai ve'kritut. Does this seem to imply that Reish Lakish holds that a marriage is not valid when the one is over on, right? Cry of creases. Amar lach Reish Lakish. Reish Lakish would come back and answer you the following. Ula ta'amech, and according to your line of reasoning, Seifa, the Katani, at the end of our Mishnah, where it teaches Baal va'asama amar, okay, that he had relations with her and then did ma'amar. It's tarich la'ashma'inen, it was necessary in order to teach us. The ein kiddushin tofsin be'eshet ish. Was it necessary to come to teach us that such a marriage with an eshet ish is not valid? We learned that elsewhere. Don't we know that otherwise? Ella rather, Aide ditana hatarat yabam achad v'yabam ma'achad. Rather, it comes to teach us what? The following, right? That the permission of a yabam, okay, or the availability, however we might want to translate it there, of one yabam and a single yabama, Tananami, shtei yabamot v'yabam echad. He also wanted to teach us the situation also in regards to two yabamot and a single yabam. Va'ayde ditana shtei yabamot v'yabam echad. And since he wanted us to learn and understand the status when there were two yabamot and a single yabam, Tananami, shtei yabamim v'yabam ma'achad. He also wanted to teach us two yabamim and one yabama. In other words, it was more almost I don't want to call it per se a literary style, but it was a mnemonic basis by which to know if it's two of one and one of the other, then you also need to know what's one of one and two of the other.
I had a question on this. Like, it seemed in my deficient level of knowledge that giving a kasuba or mimer or a real kasuba kedushin achar bia has a point, because without it, it's true that the bia was kind of her, but now he's not allowed to have relations with her ever again without her having some kind of a document.
Right.
Now, I did not find in the Meforshim anybody spell that out, but it seems to me if the guy jumps the gun and now he wants to be married to her, he has to give her a kasuba. So that would be Maimer Akarbia.
Okay, good question. Let's think about it just for the following example. Okay, if we're, yes, Marty, go ahead.
Yeah, he has, that's for her getting money if she leaves
Money.
town. But what about getting fed and getting clothed now?
I
That's what a
understand.
Maimer document
I understand
does.
Michael's point. Let's take the following. We have presented the Gemara. I have tried to present the Gemara to keep us in mind that there are two levels of relationship. There's a Zika relationship and there's a marital relationship. I'm rephrasing Michael's question just a little bit. If he goes ahead, okay, and does Yibum, Bia, he has fulfilled the Zika relationship,
Still has to
but
marry.
doesn't, right? That's what I'm saying. I'm just rewording your question, okay? But doesn't he have to do something, okay, to clarify, particularly if he's going to continue and make it a marital relationship, else he is not permitted to have any more physical relations with that woman because he has already, okay, he has already satisfied the requirement of the Zika relationship. And so must there be something?
Does that relationship have to result in a pregnancy
The first time,
the first time?
God, it's in God's hands.
Okay.
I don't think that stuff doesn't.
Hold on. Erwin,
But once he's a Yibum, that is a method of production. Right.
That's correct.
normally, right, Erwin, normally you're correct.
Hmm. If you use beer.
Wait. Michael, think about it. Think about it. I'm not disagreeing with you. Erwin's point is that I'm going to rephrase Erwin's comment as a question. Does that imply when one does Bia to fulfill the Yibum requirement, that it also satisfies the Doraita requirement of making her his wife?
No, beer always does that, but midrabanan, you have to have a document.
That's the point, Michael.
That's what I'm asking.
Yes, that's the point. So Erwin's comment is I take it as a question, Erwin, and it's a good statement, but I'm going to take it as a question. Does that Bia both satisfy the Zika element and the marital requirement?
It can't, because we already
Exactly.
said that
That's
midrabanan,
the
you
answer.
have to do minor
Exactly.
first.
That's the answer. It's not. Okay,
But
it
anyway,
doesn't.
I see it as an issue, and nobody raised it.
It doesn't. What?
And what if he doesn't do mine, we just go straight to Yibum?
Then it's a one and done
It's
deal.
a one
And
night
he gets
stand.
Malchus
Then
for
it's a
that.
one night stand.
And he
so
gets
to speak.
Malchus.
If he does it again,
No,
anything. What do you mean?
he gets Malchus he gets Malchus according to Rav anyway,
Why?
because he did not do mimer first and he violated.
Oh, that's according to.
Rabban.
But that's just one view.
No, but that's the halacha.
Yes, but
You can't say that's
well,
just one view.
that was
and that's
Rav's
brought to
view.
halacha.
That was Rav's view, that to adequately, properly fill the mitzvah, you should do Maimar and then Bia.
Because they wanted it to have the pattern
Exactly.
of a real marriage.
Exactly. So that's why so that tells me, okay, that even though you're right and you haven't found it spelled out in the text,
The Mishnah clearly says that, the more clearly says that the chatchila, the way to do it is minor.
I'm not disagreeing.
No, but
I'm just
saying
simply
that if you
saying,
jump the gun and
if
wanted to
all
fulfill
you did was Bia,
then you have to, then she has to move out.
correct. I'm not
And you have to
disagreeing.
give her a get, unless you give her a minor.
Right. Okay. And that's why, no, no, not necessarily. The Bia fulfilled the Yibum, but it did not, Minatora, but it did not fulfill the rabbinic requirement
Of having.
of establishing an appropriate marital bond. That's the point. Okay? That's the point. All right. No, it was a good question, worth the discussion, because we've been working on this view that there are these two different relationships and to what degree a single act could fulfill. That comes back.
According to article, the term used for a 3 years of disposal of the Yavama. In other words, if the star
Right, well, that's exactly the case. Why? Because the oraita, right, because only the oraita was bia sufficient. The Rabbanan, you needed a document as well. And we see that that's what they did regarding the mama as well.
Especially
Okay.
worded because the 200 zus comes from the
Right,
But other than that, everything in the minor is exactly the same as the Suda.
right,
I have to feed you, I have to clothe
right.
you.
And the Gemara's ultimately gives us that text. Right? Yeah, okay. Top of Nun Gimel Amud Beis. All right. Chalatz v'asam ma'amar v'natan v'chuli. Bishlema chalatz v'asam ma'amar it's tarich. To say that they did chalitza and then a ma'amar, we need it. Because I thought I could have said, Nigzor ma'amar de batar chalitza, atu ma'amar de kame chalitza. Okay, maybe we should make a gezerah, a decree, right? That the ma'amar is not valid after chalitza, because based on the fact that we say ma'amar should be done before chalitza. Kamash malan, right? The lo gazrina
We don't make
comes to teach us that we don't make such a gezerah. Ela chalatz v'natan laget lamali. So if we have an example, okay, of chalitza, and then giving a get, and we say that it could have been a situation of a single yabam and a single yabama. In that case, why? Ula ta'amech ema seifa. And according to that, your view, I would say, look at again at the end of our Mishnah. Ba'al va'asam ma'amar. Coming back to our example here, relations and then did ma'amar. Ba'al v'natan get. We also have example of ba'ila and then giving a get. Bishlema ba'al v'natan get, it's tarich. Okay, that's acceptable when we say that they had relations and then he gives her a get. Why? Because it's possible I might have thought nigzor get the batar be'ila atu get the kame be'ila. Okay, we make a decree that he has to give her a get after be'ila because, again, the whole discussion that I might have thought that the oraita that be'ila is enough to create and satisfy both relationships, right? To get the kame be'ila. Why? Because of the get, okay, before ge'ila. Kamash malan de lo gazrinan comes to teach us then that we don't make such a decree. Aval ba'al va'asam ma'amar lamali. But when he did be'ila and then ma'amar, why do we need our Mishnah to deal with that? Ella rather, Aide detana chalatz va'asam ma'amar, since he taught our Mishnah that one did chalitza and then does a ma'amar, tananami ba'al va'asam ma'amar. Okay, he also taught, okay, that did be'ila and then does ma'amar. Va'aide de ba'e lemitne ba'al v'natan get. And since he taught that be'ila and then gives a get, tananami chalatz v'natan get. He also taught chalitza and gives a get.
even though that's superfluous.
Right. So in other words, the implication seems to be that for the sake of the mnemonic device of literary benefit to help memorize the Mishnayos, okay, it again said, if you do this, this, if you do that, that.
Stylistic reasons.
Stylistic reasons. Okay? All right. Let's finish up the parak. Matnitin, our Mishnah teaches, the Loka Hai Tana, can't be according to the following Tana. The Tanya, who teaches as follows. Abba Yossi ben Yochanan, Ish Yerushalayim. One of the first times we come across him. All right? Omer Mishum Rabbi Meir, in the name of Rabbi Meir. Achat be'ila ve'achat chalitza betchila. Okay? If he did be'ila at the beginning or chalitza at the beginning. Ein achareha klum. That's it. Nothing else. However, I'm going to fit in here. Be'emtza ubasof yesh achareha klum. if he did be'ila or chalitza in between or at the end, okay, and particularly I would apply this in the situation of one yabam and two yabamot, okay,
Then he can do new things.
then he's may have to do other things as well. Okay, ushalosh machlakot b'davar,
Three-way.
and there are three opinions on this, so it's a three-way machloket. Tana kama savar. First Tana, what? Bia deika lemigzar gazrinan. Okay, if there's bia, right? Okay, one has to make the decrees. Chalitza, delika lemigzar. With regards to chalitza, there is no need to make a decree.
Because there's really nothing
Left to do. Lo gazrinan, we make no decree. V'Rebbi Nechemya savar. Second opinion. Bia nami leka lemigzar. With regard to bia, okay, he could have held Rabbi Nechemya like Abaye and Rava, who said our Mishnah should have taught ein achar bia. Okay, so giving that case, bia nami leka lemigzar. After bia, one doesn't have to make a decree. Udika amart, and when you say ligzor bia achar haget, mishum bia achar chalitza, let us make the decree then regarding bia the same after a get, the same way bia after chalitza. Kevan de chalitza deoraita, maide yade. Okay,
Bezdin
since
knows what
people,
it's doing. Well, here it's a Bezdin.
it's a basin, but
So Bezdin knows what it's doing. You don't have
it's
to
not.
make a
But I
decision.
understood it's not just basin. Okay, people are aware. Okay, basin acts, and people are aware. Like in that
Right.
situation.
I think it's a Bezdin because
Okay.
the technicalities, we do make gezeras so people don't get confused.
Okay.
But here, since Bezdin's doing it, there's no reason to make a gezerah. They can't get confused.
That means the people are aware of it. They're knowledgeable, right? So the basin doesn't have to make a gezerah, right? Okay. Udikamart, and when you say ligzor bia achar ma'ama, what about making a gezerah regarding bia after ma'ama? Mishum bia achar bia. Maybe even because of bia acharei bia.
See,
Okay.
that's the case. If you don't have a mimer, you can't do
Right.
you can't tell what
Kevan
it
de
is.
bia de oraita, right? Ha miyade yadia. Okay, so here, since bia, okay, whereas bia from a Torah perspective is a valid means, right? Nevertheless, and people, the Beis Din is aware of that, but the people are aware of it. Why? Because the Rabbanan, you need more than bia to make it a formal marriage situation. That helps me define why, as your question was, you need to have some sort of a document, right? Either a star ma'amar or something else. Yes, Errol.
But if he does bia.
Yeah.
He inherits the brother's
Money.
money. So why doesn't he get the ksuba with that? The obligations to go with the money?
No, the obligation stays on that estate.
Right.
In other words, he inherits a field in Deerfield among the various assets, and that field's worth 200 zuz.
And if it has a
So
mortgage,
that has a lien on it, and he can't sell that one field. And that lien goes to pay off her kasuba in the event of the second husband's death or divorce. The rest of the previous husband's assets
he
are
can get.
unencumbered.
He
The
can
only time the new husband has a chov is if the first husband
didn't
was
have
an
enough money. Right? Va'aba Yossi ben Chanan Savarla Kirabanan the Gazre Babia. And the third individual in the machloket, okay, is Rabbi Abba Yossi ben Chanan, who holds like the rabbis, Labriut there, the Gazre Babia that does make the decree, the Gazar Chalitza Mishum Bia. And he feels the decree has to be made,
because otherwise the public will.
okay, because the issue is that if they do chalitza, maybe people are aware of the fact that if the chalitza, there's nothing more to be done. But if it's done, bia is done, they don't know for sure. They may still think, oh, d'oraita now, it's all taken care of. Nothing else is needed. That's not the case. Hadranalan Rabban Gamliel. Okay, we finished that parak, and I said Koren passed around a chart. Okay, I'm going to pass the chart around. You can skim that as I give a very short introduction to the new parak. All right. Okay, this is Biology 101. Okay. All right. If you missed that class in high school.
For those of you who follow Florida principles of not teaching controversial topic, put in your earplugs or leave now.
Actually gave that.
Huh?
Liberal shit,
No.
especially the gays. Does
Okay.
the Torah know what a woman is?
Does what?
Does the Torah know what a woman is?
Yeah, it's a non-man.
Okay. There is okay. Michael and I got talking just before the start of the shiur. There is an assumption. Okay, there is an assumption being made by the rabbis as we go through this particular Mishnah and Gemara. Okay, their assumption is that a man is able to control his sexual urges. Okay?
Well, just a minute. Who was it that laughed? Not his sexual urges, his physical response to an erotic environment.
Okay. Now, I will tell you a true story. Okay, personal, but please don't let it. Okay, what? No, it's a very true story. No. This is true. I had to have a prostatectomy, okay, as a result of prostate cancer that was discovered. Okay, and I had it at Sloan Kettering Hospital in New York, a well-known institution. Okay, and I was told after the surgery, which was done robotically, okay, that, and I had it done there specifically because the doctor was supposedly an expert in doing this, okay, but in the course of the surgery, I was told by one of the other departments there, the sexual, I'll call them the sexual advisory department, okay, that he looked at, also a doctor, he looked at the results of the surgery and nerves were damaged and in the course of the surgery. Okay, as a result, okay, that would have an impact. Okay, and this doctor then basically said to me, as a result, there's going to be some difficulty in establishing an erection. Okay, he suggested medication. Okay, all of us know that there's a little blue pill that was very popular. Okay, there's another one too. Okay, they recommended trying to do that. That was not successful. Okay, they recommended injections. Okay, no, I'm being honest. I'm being honest. We're all, I think we're grown up enough to understand, and we're at an age that we should understand. Okay, that there was a problem with that. I won't go into detail, but there was a problem in that. Okay, in that situation too. Okay.
Then there's an implant.
The implant is a whole different option. Okay, but what I do want to just share with, and then we'll come back and move on. So what was the doctor's recommendation? He says, if you want, I will write you a prescription to watch porn.
To have it to over simulate.
Okay, okay. I said, no, you don't have to write me a prescription.
I have internet prescription.
What?
In Medicare paper.
In any event, I want us to understand. I bring up this story. I'm not uncomfortable explaining it, but I do bring up the story because I want us to understand the input behind the Gemara. That the rabbis make, again, a general assumption, okay? That, again, a man is able to control, okay, his ability to have an erection.
Although they
Okay.
do acknowledge that old
But-
men can't.
Okay, but there will be, right, but there will be examples in the Gemara, which is cited, where we have another example where a man falls off a roof and lands on a woman. Okay, we learned that in the Gemara, that the Gemara tells a story and lands in
What's
a
he
woman.
doing with an erection on the roof?
You know what she's doing in that position?
No, I can understand him falling down, but why is he, did he get it up?
I was
before he fell down?
I was gonna say.
That's why you know that.
Let's get
Oh,
on with the
you
Gemara.
hang out
Okay.
on the roof. Oh, I didn't mean hang out.
I had an answer for you, but I'll share it, save it for later,
Yeah.
okay?
Aye.
Okay. All right,
Mishnah.
but I do want us to understand that as we go into the Mishnah and then the Gemara, that there is this rabbinic mindset, okay, that today medically, psychologically may not be 100% correct, okay? And if you get to,
Your drama is completely different from biblical deduction. If a man has relations with a wife on any of these scenarios, for the biggest good,
We'll see. Right. Okay, so let's start our new Mishnah. Haba'al yavamto bein b'shogeg bein b'mezid. Okay, one has relations with his yavama, regardless if it was done accidentally or on purpose.
And here b'mezid means for the purpose of znus, not l'shem yibo.
That's okay. I'm gonna. I agree with you, but I want to phrase it again a little differently. Part of the Gemara, Mishnah Gemara wants to understand. Okay, there's one thing to do the act. There's another thing to have intent to fulfill the mitzvah.
But here he has negative intent. What
That
do
may
I
be.
mean?
That may be. I'm not disagreeing, but I'm saying, think of, as we go through the Mishnah, we have these two elements. It's the act is one thing, the intent, both on the part of the Yabam or the Yabama, is something else. Okay? So, Habal Yavamto bein b'shogeg bein b'mezid, whether he did it purposely, okay, as an act or mitzvah-oriented, or without purpose. Bein ba'onis, bein b'ratzon, whether it was done against will or willingly. Okay, in other words, he could have been forced by non-Jews to have relations with her. Okay, right? Afilu hu shogeg vehi mezida, even if he does it accidentally and she does it purposefully. Hu mezid vehi shogeget, he does it purposefully and she does it by accident. Okay, and again, if that's why I said the two elements, act and mental intent to fulfill mitzvah. Okay, hu anus vehi lo anusa. Okay, he is forced and she is not forced. He anusa v'hu lo anus. He is forced and she is not. Echad hama'ara ve'echad hagomer. Okay, the same applies whether it's the initial stage or completion of the act.
Intermission, it's called.
Okay, kana, he has now
Kaina.
been acquired her. Velo chilak bein bia labia. Okay, right? And we do not distinguish here between bia and bia, between one form of bia and another form of bia.
Here, we don't make value judgments about why you're doing it. And
The kedarka shalo kedarka.
Yeah, shalom.
Right.
Okay.
That's the case. V'chein haba al echat mikol ha'arayot shebetorah. And likewise, anyone who has relations with any of those who are forbidden by the Torah, o psulot, or those who are pasul, invalid. Okay, right? The following: Kigon almana lekohen gadol, widow with a kohen gadol, grusha v'chalutza lekohen hedyat. And there we see that example, a divorcee or a chalutza to a common kohen, mamzeret unatina Yisrael, okay, a woman mamzer, or a woman of the natina status to a male Jew, bat Yisrael mamzer ulanatinin, or a Jewish woman regarding a mamzer or a natin, okay, one again who was from that status, right? Pasla, okay, those are invalid. Velo chilek bein bia labia. And again, we don't make a distinction between one form of bia to another form of bia. Gemara, okay? What does the Gemara say? Maya afilu lo mibaye ka'amar? Okay, are we saying here that our structure is such that it's in a low? Yeah, why is this the case? Lo mebai kama. Are we talking here about a lo mebai situation, phrased in that manner? Namely, lo mebai hu shoge. It's not necessary, so to speak, to say if it was accidental. Vehi kimechavna the mitzvah, where she, okay, has intent to fulfill the mitzvah. Inami, or also, who may zid vehi kimichva mitzvah, or he does it intentionally, right? And she does it to fulfill with the sake of the mitzvah. El afilu hu shoge vehi mezida, but even if it's done by accident by him, and she does it with purpose, okay, travaihu lo kimechavne l'shem mitzvah. Okay, where both of them don't have intent to fulfill it for the purpose of the mitzvah, afilu hachikana, even in that case, okay, he's required. Tani Rabbi Chia, says Rabbi Chia, afilu shnehem shogegim, even if both of them did it without intent. Shnehem mizidim, both of them did it with intent.
Wanton. They both did it l'shem's nus. That's what Rashi says.
That's Rashi. Okay. All right. Rashi's welcome.
Deviate from basic pshat.
That's Rashi's pshat. Okay. Right. Right. I remember I've said to you that some others give other pshatim too. Okay.
If you're using mazid meaning with intent, then that would mean l'shem mitzvah. Here,
not necessarily.
It's lav l'shem mitzvah. It's with the intent to have a good time. Look at the very first Rashi, l'shem znus, below l'shem mitzvah. That's how he defines.
That's how he defines it.
And that's consistent with the Mishnah. You can't deviate from that.
Okay. Shnehem anusim, that the two of them are forced. Anus dematnitin hechitami. Okay, regarding the being anus, okay, how is it possible? So the Gemara now tells us, ilema kishansuhu ovdei kochavim. If you were going to say that they were forced by Gentiles, uba'aleh va'amar rabba ein anus la'erva. But and then he had relations with her. Wasn't it Rava who said clearly, ein onus la'erva, that there is no a situation of anus in that regard. Lafisha ein kishui ela ladat. And here's the point that we were making before, that there is no ability to establish or to have an erection without clear
You want to do it.
mental focus. Okay? Ela biyashan. Okay? What happens? Right? But what happens there? Biyashan. Right?
She's asleep.
Okay? She's asleep. All right? Maybe that's an onus situation.
People do get erections while they're sleeping.
Right.
And they're not sexual.
Right. Va'amar Rav Yehuda. And Rav Yehuda says as follows, and I've got to just jump into my other book just to finish up. Yashan lo kane biyabamto. Okay? Right? But rather he says what happens when one is sleeping, okay? It does not mean that he acquires the relationship as his wife is Yabama. Okay? So that's where we're going to stop
But that's
there.
only theoretical because
Okay.
nobody's watching. They don't have video cameras.
We hope not. Okay? All right? All right? Okay, we'll stop right there. Pick up tomorrow's daf. We'll pick up with Nun Dalet. Okay? All right. Okay.
That doesn't matter. The minute it goes in.
That's why it said whether the beginning or it's completed in the text.
No.
All right?
And there was some miracle.
Beginning, you're talking about this entry and it finishes when he
Yeah.